Welcome to this episode of Grow For It. This is a podcast for small business owners, managers, and other professionals. I'm Jim, and my goal is to work in the space between your ears, on your mindset, to help you move closer toward your vision. Well, we've made it. Today is December 31st, 2019. It's the end of the year here, and I'm just putting together some last-minute plans and going through some numbers here in the office. And I thought I'd go ahead and record episode 12 of the Grow For It podcast. And you'll find this one's going to be a little bit more informal, probably a little bit less produced than what you've heard from me in the past. But, I just, as I look at this and I talk to clients and I kind of get my plans ready for what 2020 is going to bring, I think it's important to be a little reflective. And if you'll bear with me, I'd like to share just a few ideas. Nothing earth-shattering. I realize you're busy. I realize you haven't been sitting there waiting for this episode from Jim Ray Consulting Services to finally hit the iTunes or Apple Podcast or the emails or blogs. But I appreciate your time. And as always, I do appreciate you being there and listening along the way. I think perspective is something that's really, really important. In fact, the last couple of weeks, I've shared those with my kiddos. For those of you that don't know, I've got a son who's a senior at Purdue University and a daughter who's a freshman at Indiana University in Bloomington. And, the pressures of day-to-day can get overwhelming. If you're like me, if you're a small business owner, obviously you're dealing with different kinds of pressures, but at the same time, everything's relative, isn't it? And I'd like to kind of step back and step out of the circle and just kind of look around once in a while and realize, we're not dealing with what our grandparents dealt with. I mean, we are not dealing with the Great Depression, where people literally were starving, where people literally had no hopes for much of anything, during the time. And I can imagine how difficult that was. At the same time, we're not dealing with smallpox. We're not dealing with what our parents dealt with polio out there, where, kids were catching this virus just going to the swimming pool at the time. It was just amazing things have changed. And as stressful and as negative as sometimes we get, it's important to maintain that and understand, actually, if you look back at 2019, it wasn't all that bad. Life is still, for the average person out there, pretty good. I think it's important to hold on to those things as you look forward to 2020. Realistically, if you just look out your window, there's opportunity everywhere. You can't walk down the street right now without seeing help wanted signs all over the place. If you get on the internet and you look for, job postings and things, they're everywhere. And if nothing else, you all have the ability, we all have the ability to go out and create our own opportunity. And that's something that other people just don't have in other countries. As difficult as it gets, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, left, right, center, it doesn't matter, we still have a tremendous amount of opportunity, and it's up to us to pursue it. I look at this thing, the internet, that I've jumped into the last 10, 12 years at least. And it just makes it so much easier than other generations have had when it comes to, learning information, learning about topics, learning about just about anything you want to figure out. It's out there. It makes it easier to launch a business. If you're ready to do that, if you're interested in doing that, it's so much easier now to go through those processes, to get all of that in order, and to actually figure out the resources and support online than ever before. And with the advent of Facebook and Twitter and all these other things, it's also a way to connect with people that you may not have seen for years and years and years. It may be a way to form new friendships with people you may never have crossed paths with, but for the advent of this thing called the internet. Perspective is important. One thing that I always try to realize, and I have to tell myself this at times, hey, I'm another year older, which means I've got another year's worth of experience. We all do. Regardless of how you look back on 2019, good or bad or mediocre or fantastic, we learned a lot this year. And that's valuable information. That's valuable knowledge as we point forward. Hopefully you made some mistakes. All that means is you were trying something new. You were trying to do something differently. The big question is, did you learn from it? Whether it worked out well, okay, great. How can you replicate it? Or whether it was just a total disaster. Again, what did you learn from that? At the end of the day, we still live in a country that gives you a shot at your dreams. Now, the guarantee that we had was the pursuit of happiness. It wasn't a guarantee. And so excuses don't matter. We still have the opportunity to pursue happiness. And it's really up to us to work hard, to put in the time, put in the prayer, put in the luck that it takes to really accomplish those dreams. But again, we've got that opportunity. I think what I'd ask my kiddos at this point, what I ask my friends and my clients, what are your dreams? What are you really thinking about? What would you like to accomplish? And have you written them down? Have you committed to them? What's holding you back is the big question. If those are the things that you dream about, if that's the vision of what you want life to be like, what's really holding you back? And more importantly, what are you willing to do in pursuit of those dreams? It really comes down to us. At the end of the day, it comes down to us and what we're willing to do to go after those dreams. So here we are. 2020 is knocking at the door. It's literally a few hours away. If I could add some advice to everything you're already hearing from people and all of the things that you may talk about with your friends and family and colleagues, here are a few tips that I might share with you. Have the courage to dream big. It starts with a dream. It starts with a vision. And you've got so many more advantages than generations before us. Have the courage to dream big. I tell you, you know what? Go out and set audacious goals. Don't worry about, wow, I don't know how I would ever accomplish that. You don't have to eat the whole apple at one time. You don't have to eat that extra large pizza at one time. Set the goal and take a bite each day. Set the goal and take a few steps in that direction each day. It may seem audacious now. It may seem, wow, there's no way I could ever do that. But if you're consistent and you're focused and you're committed, you're going to be a lot closer this time next year than you ever imagined. It's a question of, did you set the goal and what were you willing to do to accomplish it? Let me remind you, and I have to remind myself of this, obviously. Become your biggest cheerleader. At the end of the day, it's you that you have to contend with. Everybody else has an opinion, and that's fine, but they're not standing there in your shoes. Everybody else has advice, that's great, but again, you still have to be the one doing it. Back in high school, I wrestled for 4 years, and I love that sport because once I got out on the mat, regardless of the instructions my coach was yelling from the sidelines, or regardless what the other guys sitting on the bench were yelling at me, it still came down to, could I execute at this moment? Yes, it's a team sport, but it came down to one person versus one person. And sometimes that person is you looking at yourself in the mirror. What are you committed and willing to do? So while you're remembering to cheer for yourself, let me give you a tip. Remember to cheer for other people. We're all in this path together. I tell my kids all the time, there's no rule book. I mean, not that there's no rule book, but the instruction manual is fairly thin here. If it were that easy, we'd all be doing this. We'd all be successful. We'd all be doing everything we wanted and accomplishing all these great goals. The reality is, it doesn't work that way. So don't be afraid to give somebody else a hand up. Don't be afraid to share a kind word or a smile. And do a favor once in a while. Cheer for the other people. Their success really won't take away from your success. We're all in this together. Be kind, be happy, and commit. At the same time, life, there are no guarantees. So expect the storms. They're going to come. We all know this. They're going to be there, regardless of how well we've got stuff planned out, regardless of how well we've done to insulate ourselves from pain points and pressures and all these other things. Storms are still going to come. So expect them, prepare for them, but have faith that you're going to get through them. And part of that is just simply remembering to breathe. I know a lot of times we get swept up and stressed out, and life gets difficult, and everything can seem overwhelming at times. One of the best things you can do is simply remember to breathe. You'll get through this. You're a year older, you've been through this before, and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity ahead. Whatever you're dealing with right now, realistically, if you have the right perspective, you're going to understand. It's temporary. The highest highs and the lowest lows are temporary. It's a long journey out there. So expect the storms, but understand you're going to get through them. Part of that is really being thankful for what you have. And I've got to remind people about this all the time. You know, I tell people, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's just in conversation I might have with others, I compete against me. You know, I'm happy to see other people succeed. I'm happy to sometimes play a small part in that. I'm happy to see other people, achieve massive goals that they've set in success. That's awesome. But don't forget, be thankful for the things you have, because you've worked hard to get there. You've had some luck, and people that have gone before you may have worked even harder to ensure that your path was just a little smoother, a little easier. And that's a good thing, but just be thankful. And finally, believe that there are a million opportunities still out there. Have the courage to chase one of them. Friends, it's been a great year. 2019, regardless of where you are again politically, regardless of where you are at this very moment, it's still been a great year. If you look around, the world's a little brighter than sometimes we realize, and tomorrow is going to be even better. Well, that wraps it up for now. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for taking a few minutes just to listen to this episode, and I hope it helped, and I hope it helps as you move forward. Enjoy this time together with your family and friends over the holiday, and set some big goals. 2020 is just literally hours away, and I hope it's a fantastic year for each of you. Until next time, I'm Jim Ray, and I wish you luck with every challenge that you're going to meet in 2020, and I hope you have the confidence to persevere, to pursue, and to move forward, because it's going to be an outstanding year. And if you're ready, let's grow for it.